Today, I'm going to teach you how to make a Doom map. First, open our Ultimate Doom Builder. Go to Tools, Game Configuration, and select Boom Doom 2. Open our Node Builder and use CDBSP Node Reject for both saving and playtesting. There, add Doom2.wat. This is needed for Ultimate Doom Builder to extract resources. Then turn to testing and add your preferred source for as engine. This is needed to run your map. With the settings done, you can create your first map. Select Boom Doom 2 and input level name. No need to do anything about resources at the moment, since Doom2.wat is now owned by default. Let's draw a square first. Select Vertices mode and right-click to draw. Now try and put textures on the box. Select Line Depth mode, which allows you to select line depths and edit the properties of them. And the same applies to Sector mode. Every line depth and sector can only have one set of properties, so if we were to create some lines here, we need to draw new ones inside the square. Notice how the newly drawn sectors are gray outlines instead of both whites. This means they are not two-sided, unlike the white lines with one side facing the void. One-sided lines use middle textures, while two-sided lines use upper texture and lower textures for scenes on top and down respectively, and middle textures for scenes between the ceiling and the floor. Now try to create a cage. Draw a new sector, putting fence texture for both sides of middle texture, and mark as impassable so nothing can walk through. Now let's highlight the scenes inside the cage. Give the sector a brightness of 256. Now let's give it a special and make it flicker. You can also experiment with other specials as well. All of them are pretty much self-explanatory. Let's add in more decorations. Hit Ctrl+D to enter drawline mode. Split the line depth and apply border textures to cover up the connecting texture. With the room done, let's build it in 3D. Press Ctrl+W to place the camera position, and select visual mode. Try moving with ESDF, and press Shift to move faster. You can select and drag a texture to change its offset. You can also press A to auto-align them. When you select a surface, scroll mouse wheel to raise or lower it. You can also hold Shift to do it more precisely, and Control to change its brightness instead. Now let's make a door, but before that, let's figure out what is a door first. So the way Doom map structure functions is basically chopping out a 2D surface of space, and adjusting the height of the floor or the ceiling of that space to create verticality. And all 3D structures are created this way. Balconies, windows, stairs, etc. And the door is basically a line you press use on to raise the ceiling of a sector it attaches on. You'll be raised by just 8 units beneath the lowest adjacent ceiling. So in order for it not to go up to the sky, put border sectors around the door sector. Congrats, you've just made a working door. But something is wrong. Why does these two textures move out along with the door? So by default, a middle texture changes its offset according to the ceiling it is facing. But we don't want that. Head to the line depth property and take lower impact. That way the middle texture will align to the floor instead of ceiling. Avoid this ugly looking vertical misalignment instead. Take both upper impact and lower impact. The former makes the upper texture align to the ceiling, while the latter makes the lower texture align to the floor. Keep in mind that middle texture on one side of the line depths is affected by only lower impact, while upper and lower texture get affected by upper impact and lower impact respectively. With this knowledge acquired, you can make your doors look better, and the fences no longer flow. What about other actions? The type of actions are indicated by these two letters. The first letter D stands for door, and S stands for switch. While 1 means the action is for one-time use only, and R means the action is repeatable. However, unlike the door action which is used, which doesn't require attacks and affects only the sector it attaches on, all the other actions need attack. For instance, give this switch a lift action attack, and apply the same tag to this sector. Hit the switch and the lift will be lowered. Triggering a monster closet is basically the same story. Set a trigger line, apply the tags, and you're good to go. But what if you don't want the player to be able to hit that switch until they complete the ambush? You cannot activate a switch if the sector in front of it has something blocking it. Raise the floor of switch sector, and make sure its floor height is equal to or greater than the ceiling height, or you can still hit it. And remember to place an extra switch inside the closet that lower the sector, so it can be activated only after the fight is done. Alright, now you want to set up a teleport fight for this key here, but how? So to teleport monsters into the map, you will need a trigger line to lower the wall for a group of working on monsters out of bounds to walk into teleporting lines. Making a teleporter is easy. Give the line an action, tag a sector, and remember to put a teleport destination. But how do we wake up monsters? Introducing join sectors. So how sound works in Doom is that you travel through each sector and wakes up every monster in it, only blocked by either void or fully enclosed sector. Of course, you can make a tunnel for the sound to traverse through, but honestly that's just too lame. Joining two sectors basically made them identified by the game logic as the same one, with the same set of properties, and thus becomes some sort of teleporter for sound to come across, even when the two sections are not connected at all. With that technique we can make our first teleporter fight, and if you made a mistake and want to cancel out two join sectors, enable the make sector mode, and keep in mind that editing join sectors might automatically unjoin them. With that key required, let's make a locked door that connects to the outdoor area of the map. But unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a fitting action. Don't worry, introducing Boom Generalized Actions. Boom Generalized Actions allows you to basically customize your own actions. With it, you can make a door that doesn't close after being opened, or a door that opens really fast, or a door that can be opened with only keycards. Just keep in mind it's for Boom only, and Generalized crashes, glitch, and literally doesn't work. Alright, now that the outdoor area is finished, set up some incidental combat here. Wait, the monsters are already woken up by the sound. Before it's even possible to get out, don't worry, you can put some sunblocking lights to prevent that. When you tag every two-sided line of a sector to be sunblocking, the sector is considered to be sunblocking. And when two sections are connected only through sunblocking sectors, sound will not travel through them. But sometimes only blocking sound won't be enough, since monsters can still see you. This is when we'll need some engine hackery. Dig out some sectors around the monsters, but don't put any lower textures, and set the monsters to be ambush. Open up generalized actions, go to floor. Set target to highest floor, but set direction to down. When you try to lower floor to somewhere that is higher, the engine will freak out and perform that instantly. And this is a trick called pop-up monsters. It looks pretty absurd, but alright if you don't constantly abuse it or anything. Now we want a switch that creates a bridge to reach the other side of the shore. Open up generalized actions, create a floor action, and set change to change texture and remove effect. Wait, what is this model thing? So an actual complete explanation of this is nerdy as hell, and I believe nobody will bother. But essentially it is related to the model of texture change. Trigger uses the flat texture of the sector in front of the action line as the model, while numeric uses the flat texture of the nearby sector as of the tag sector. In this case, we want numeric. But wait, what if you want to switch to raise a specific height instead of the same as the highest nearby floor? Do remember that joint sectors will be identified as the same. That's right, we're gonna visit it again. Draw a control sector out of bounds, and another to join that with a bridge sector. Since the joint sectors are technically the same sector, and share a line depth for the control sector will just strong, they're considered to be adjacent. Since the destined height we wanted isn't either lowest or highest, we need to use lowest adjacent ceiling instead. Time to decorate this area. Set the ceiling texture to F sky 1 to create a sky, which will also affect everything above the ceiling height. So if you were to make a sky that covers out the entire background, draw a sector around the playable area and lower it to the floor. Keep in mind not to have any sector in front of the sky sector that will block it, otherwise it will become a hot mirror. Put some pillars to cover the blank walls. Instead of lowering the ceiling or raising the floor, press delete to delete the sector, which makes texturing much easier in most cases. Now let's put some cool light gradients. Select a group of line depths, make sure they are of the same direction. Activate stair builder, turn on single steps and input your desired values. When you finish stair building, change the brightness of the first and the last sector, and select them one by one from the brightest to darkest. Use make light gradient function. Now this dark texture looks pretty bad actually, but clicking on every single line depth is on tedious chore. Hop on video mode, press Ctrl plus C to copy the texture. Press Ctrl plus V on mouse 3 to paste it, and hold Shift if you want to floor fill, which affects every connected same texture. But what if you want to add properties other than just textures? Press Shift to select all the same textures, or press Ctrl to select the same group of textures. Same group means the line depths are facing the sectors of same height properties. When you use those sectors, it's basically the same thing with Shift selecting the same textures, and Control selecting the same heights. Also remember that you can press C to cancel your selections. But wait, what the hell is this? Why is my map freaking out? So basically Doom map format is a lot more fragile than you think, and things will begin to break badly if you don't follow its terms and services. And one usual occurrence is when there are overlapping sectors or line depths, just like what we have created here. Fixing those is quite simple, as long as you make sure there isn't any overlapping stuff left. However, it's alright if you keep it only during the development. Other common issue is newly drawn sectors turn weird like this, usually broken sector with one-sided line depths. In this case, try deleting and mating the sectors, or adjusting line depths and vertices. I highly suggest against using grid rotation function, or anything similar in non-UDM format, as that will almost always permanently damage your map. But anyway, don't feel ashamed to ask other mappers for help in cases like this. Alright, it was probably at this point when the brown ugly sky gets annoying to look at. Don't worry, you can switch it with sky transfer action. Set up an auto bound sector, set action to sky transfer, then set upper texture to your desired sky texture. Keep in mind that texture offset will affect the sky transfer, so keep the horizontal offset to 0, while use the vertical offset if you want to raise or lower the sky. You need to also apply sky transfer to every other tag sector other than 0. The most convenient method I found is by using the draw ellipse function, and tag new line depths whenever I add new tags during the development. But what if there isn't a sky texture that you like? Well, you will need Slade. Cautions, do not do any Slade editing without closing and saving your map in Ultimate Doom Builder first, or you'll have your progress wiped. Import your own sky textures, or just steal them from other WADs. But wait, why doesn't it show up in Ultimate Doom Builder when I add them? So the way WAD textures work in WAD is that there are two tables, one patch table and one texture table. Then you will need to copy and paste both patch table and texture table of your selected IWADs. In this case, zoom2.wad to your own WADs. Patch table defines the texture parts, while texture table allows combining the texture parts and defining those in the editor. So simply group select the textures and add to texture table and it will work. But what about flat textures? Simply copy and paste the flat markers and put your flat textures between those. If you are importing your own textures, you will need to convert them into Doom format first. If you use wall texture, select Doom graphics paletted. If it's anything else, select Doom flat paletted. Textures width and length need to be power over 2s to be displayed properly. But what about animated textures and switch textures? They both have their respective tables, and they are for Boom only. But you don't need to create your own ones and probably lose your hairs doing so. Simply steal them from other WADs. Just don't forget to keep the last rows of table blank. Animated textures in fact use the order in the WAD file to decide the order of the frames, and not the numbers in the texture's names, so don't mess up with those. Now for music replacement, just rename the MIDI file properly and slam it anywhere in the map. If you are confused by each software's obnoxious ways of naming the MIDIs, instead of E2 M1, simply load out doom2.wad and refer to the track order. If you want to switch your map slots, simply add a little marker that sits on top of the map files. Now the map is finally done. Set up an exit. Don't forget to place player starts, and press F9 to place it to your map. You can also press the little green arrow top right to play test on lower difficulties. It's a good idea to try out every difficulty level to better balance your map, as the gut feeling isn't always the most reliable. With all things prepared, pack the WAD file and you can now ship it. Make sure you specify things such as intended IWAD and comp level, in this case Boom, as well as crediting the source of music, textures, etc. Here's the thread if you want more information on that. Of your first map published, what should you do now? Well, there's never a correct direction to do mapping, so feel free to pick what's most fun or interesting for you, such as joining a community project with others, learning more about Boom actions, or reviewing other people's maps. It's up to you. Never feel ashamed to crack up the editor and study other people's works. This way you can better grasp what works and what doesn't. That's all I have to offer, and good luck on your journey of Doom mapping.